Friday, December 14th, 2012. I'm Cynthia Smith with your JCN Evening News. Thanks so much for tuning in. Just days after making the arrest, police today escorted the two men allegedly behind a number of murders here in the capital before a magistrate. And as Cynthia Smith tells us, as a consequence, tonight they'll be spending their first night on remand.
22-year-old Rashad Sullivan and his co-accused 22-year-old Patrickito Rose are the two police have been holding over the past week for questioning in relation to 23 murders in the country. In fact, earlier this week, Police Commissioner Allison Greenslade assured that they would be charged by the end of the week with 5 of those crimes. But that didn't happen. Instead, the two men were charged with the murders of Garth Major, who was killed last week, and Dario Knowles, son of slain gang leader Dion Emperor Knowles. Now, Sullivan and Rose are also accused of conspiracy to commit murder with the help from 26-year-old Eddie Artis. Police say between November 1st and November 25th, the trio conspired to kill Knowles. They were not required to enter a plea to any of the charges. But that didn't stop them from throwing themselves at the mercy of the court, pleading with Chief Magistrate Roger Gomez not to place them in maximum security. In fact, Sullivan told the magistrate, quote, "We are in fear of our lives and we are wrongfully accused. The men, who were not represented by an attorney, have been remanded to Her Majesty's prisons. They will remain there until April 23, 2013. At that time, they will appear before a Supreme Court judge via a voluntary bill of indictment." Cynthia Smith, JCN News.
Well, in overnight news from the crime beat, police are looking for 4 men, 2 of whom were wanted in connection with 2 separate armed robberies last evening. We're told the first happened around 9:15 p.m. in Winton Estates. According to reports, the victim had just arrived home when he was robbed of his BlackBerry cell phone and the key to his 4-door Honda vehicle. The suspects reportedly fled the area in a silver Jeep. You may want to keep an eye out for the vehicle. Its license plate number is 18388. An hour later, the occupants of the same colored Jeep pulled up in nearby Cool Acres and robbed a man of his gold 2005 Nissan Tiana. Investigations into both matters are ongoing. Police meantime arresting a 30-year-old man of DeVoe Street after he was found with an unlicensed firearm early this morning. Acting on information, officers went to a Wolf Road business around 12:35 and arrested the suspect. Officers also uncovering an illegal pistol in bushes off West Bay Street last evening. Well, here's a scary picture for you. Bahamian young men killing, robbing, and assaulting other Bahamian young men, and sometimes women. It's a cycle that has the country up to more than 100 murders so far for this year. And while the government's highly touted urban renewal program is seemingly making waves, the Prime Minister is hoping to take things a step further and get into the hearts and minds of troubled young men.
But Mother Pratt and Brother Allen, there is something else happening in our community that we have to come to grips with. There are young men who are good young men, but who are caught up in a cycle where the culture envelops them and they can't get out. They live through Thompson Lane. Just recently, another constituent right up the road died, killed. Any street you go through, you're going to meet good fellas who may be charged with serious offenses. And when you speak to them, you can see where the culture that exists has led them into this bottomless pit. And I'm saying today, that's our challenge.
Well, just this past week, a man in his mid-20s was gunned down on his way to work. Read through any crime report, and young men are often, if not always, behind the incidents. It's a challenge the Prime Minister insists the country tackled head-on. In other news tonight, nearly 2 days after his death, friends and family members of the teen who was struck and killed by a car earlier this week gathered at C.H. Reeves Junior High School this morning to share fond memories of the young man they affectionately called CJ. Our Kyle Joaquin has more.
A sad day for the Raptor family of C.H. Reeves, who are mourning the loss of one of their own. Calvin Morley Jr., better known as CJ, was struck and killed by a car Wednesday night while walking along Robinson Road. A student of 9Z, teachers and classmates fondly remember him as funny, entertaining, and loving. His homeroom teacher, Mrs. Fillard, says this coming January is going to be hard for her, as Calvin was always one to make her smile.
There's not a day that Calvin wouldn't put a smile on my face, and the return in January, I know there's going to be a void in our hearts because he was very respectful, a student that participated in many activities, and also a joy, again, a joy. And I know the classmates are going to be sad, but this is a process that we just have to go through.
Calvin's aunt, Cindy Morley, recalled the night she lost her nephew.
And I say to him, CJ, you hear Annie? And he didn't look up and he didn't respond. And as I waited and I said, CJ, answer, honey. CJ, answer, honey. And he didn't answer. And as the ambulance came and the ambulance took him up off the ground, they didn't brace him or anything. They just rested him on the stretcher. And when I noticed every bone in his body had been broken and his bone was broken out of him, I said, Lord, you think this would be our Christmas present? But I put him in your care.
Cindy says this certainly was not the way the family envisioned spending the holidays, and she had these words for the driver of the vehicle.
The driver of that car you take away, one of the 10 of my nephews, and I say to you, I forgive you. But had you been slowing down on the streets, my nephew might have got hit, but you wouldn't have killed him. And I want you to know that you hit him and you kill him right to the spot. And for that you leave our family grieving. You leave us with a hole in our heart, but I forgive you because you didn't know no better on these streets. I forgive you, but I ask you to take these streets that these kids have to cross. You take it as if it's your own kids on these streets. I forgive you, but a part of me you took away.
Reporting for JCN News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
In other news tonight, 9 new lawyers are now part of the legal fraternity after being called to the Bahamas bar this morning. Alexandria Mezulanik, Dustin Evans, Jan-Marie Darville, Wendell Smith, Rico Russell, Reza Eve, Felix Benaby Jr., Candace Hepburn, and Joan Dilworth are the newest members. They will join the more than 1,200 attorneys in the country. President of the Bahamas Bar Association, Ruth Bodarville, who presented her daughter Jan-Marie, described the opportunity as a grand one, a hallelujah day, she says.
I am happy to tell the world not only of my love for Jan-Marie, but also of her love for me. Moreover, it fills my heart with pure, unadulterated joy to express my pride in her accomplishments thus far. I trust and I continue to pray that all that I've instilled in her will show forth in her practice of the law. Lord, there are so many persons who have made a contribution in so many ways to Jan's success. And as you know, the family is too numerous to count.
Accepting the petitions, Chief Justice Sir Michael Barnett urged the new attorneys to be honest and prudent in all their dealings. He also reminded them that their duty is to the court and that they must respect it, as well as the offices of the judges. Speaking on behalf of the petitioners was Jan-Marie Darville, who advised the Chief Justice that she and her colleagues would do their best to uphold the law and be good reflections of the bar. Well, that brings us up to the first break. Coming up after this, more on that Moody's downgrade, and a government minister defends the roadworks compensation plan. Those stories and more are straight ahead.